I think AI is creating a really, really difficult digital world to stand out in. And it's affecting two things. It's affecting brands and your company's ability to get attention and sell things. But it's never been more unsafe to be an employee. We go to events again and again and again. All of these marketers, so we'll call it white collar work. And I meet people at every single event. There are one of two situations. I've been made redundant and I can't find another role. Or I'm worried that I'm going to be the next redundant because everyone is talking about AI, right? And I don't think there's one person who I've genuinely spoken to, you included, who hasn't got some sort of fear that something that we're used to dominating in is going to be taken away from us by this magical tool.
Welcome to Slideshow. My name is Dave Hayward. I'm the founder of Europa Creative Partners. Very, very excited about this week's guest. Stu, would you like to introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm Stu. I'm a marketing advisor, strategy guy. I do a bit of public speaking. I love coaching small business owners and startups to do marketing. And I love hanging out with Dave. I'm a Dave fan.
Right back at you. Yeah, 100%. So the name of the show is Slideshow, and the reason we do that is to set our guests up for success, because most people that I know think in slides, you know. So should we fire up your deck and we'll get into it?
Okay, mate. Sounds good. It's funny that you say that because I don't like slides.
Oh, really? Okay.
Well, not that I don't like, just that I often, if I'm doing something on stage or something, I prefer to just speak to words as opposed to pictures. I've watched some of your awesome sessions, and so hopefully I figured out how I'm going to be able to kind of blend my no slide world to the slide format that is this show. I really appreciate being on here. It's awesome, man. Thank you.
Well, right back at you.
So what I wanted to do is I'll do a little bit of a background, but you know, like Dave, I'm really old. So what I thought I'd do is I'll just summarize my last couple of years, because it's just been a blinder of a couple of years for me. And I think some of those things that I've been up to will transition well to some of the advice I hope to bring. And the advice that I want to bring is broken into kind of three areas, and you'll see those soon. And my goal would be that anyone who's watching this or listening to this kind of walks away with at least one thing that they can start doing. And that really is one of my big goals in life these days, is not just to make some money. My life's pretty cool, but it's to help people do something practical, right? And so, yeah, let's crack into it. So my last 25 months has been wild. Like about 3-4 years ago, I sort of landed myself in a role where I was on the left here working for this company in San Francisco. I was a technology startup with $1 million in the bank. And they said, Stu, will you do all of our marketing and launch us to the world? And so I was doing that from Silverdale in Auckland, where I live, in my little farm. And it was a San Francisco tech startup, and we were kind of marketing to the world. And I got to go to the Atlassian conference in Las Vegas and a couple of conferences in Australia, and we did global roadshows and all sorts of stuff. So, that was really fun. And as a Kiwi who grew up here, I started my own first small business, I think 2004, 2003. And for 20 odd years, I've been working on my small businesses or helping people with theirs. Having a play in the global game was just such a great top up for my skills. So I'm really wanting to lend some of that experience today too. Last couple of years, what I've been doing, I've been building out a camper van because it's now my mobile office. You'll be seeing me doing live streams and maybe even recording Dave in an interview this year from the camper van. I created a marketing academy for small business owners. We took 20 people through this cohort training, had an absolute blast, and it was one of the more purposeful things I've ever done in my life, was to help these 20 individuals grow their companies over 16 weeks. It was really freaking intense. Everyone, including me, the trainer, because I realized kind of midway through the responsibility of helping these people put food on the table in a really, really tough year and help grow their businesses, and kind of it really helped make me understand what I want to do when I grow up, right? Because I never feel like I've grown up.
Oh, I'm the same. Totally. I love reading. I've always wanted to write a novel, and I always get to the end and go, yeah, one day when I grow up, I'll write it. And then you read the biography and they're like 28 or something. You're like, oh, God damn it. Yeah.
Oh,
But tell me about, that's a big jump from being San Francisco tech marketer to helping a cohort of small to medium businesses in New Zealand. Did you find that the two experiences overlapped in any shape or form? Did you find that there was stuff that you'd done from your tech marketing that informed your work with the small businesses?
yeah, I want to state that during COVID, during lockdown, it was almost 100% coaching small businesses.
Yeah,
So it was kind of a jump back, planned. It was one of those offers. I never planned to work for this company in the States. It was just one of those offers that I couldn't turn down, mostly from the fact that it's a shot at a game that I hadn't played yet. And it was on a pretty big stage. And we did really, really well. That company's got to $2 million in sales in 18 months. It was just a crazy ride.
congrats.
So I came back to this training course and to these small business owners, and the small business owners were in Auckland and Australia and in the States. And I came back to it with a bunch of strategies and really fresh learning that I had been fortunate enough to experience. And I also realized, and this is one of the things that I sort of preach to people, that rather than teach people generic marketing, what I wanted to do was teach people B2B marketing for services. So to really focus down so that the people who are involved in it would get much more specific value. Because there's thousands of marketing courses out there, there's some marketing trainers out there, and I used a huge amount.
I love what
Um,
you talked about with the responsibility of it all, because I think
mm,
I really feel that all the work I do is that you're ultimately someone is putting their business in your hands and your expertise. And even with the best strategies and tactics in the world, marketing is far from a linear process. But
oh,
every industry is different, every business is different, and every audience is different.
totally, totally. I liken it to, you're building a canoe that you're paddling on top of an ocean, and the tide's coming in and out, and the tide's going in different directions. At the same time, you're trying to navigate the map by the start. It's a phenomenally evolving, constantly evolving world that we live in, and I think it's one of the reasons why I love it. To be honest, every single day, I've learned something. You know,
100%. I often think some days I get to the end of the day and I think I'd actually quite like a job where it was the same as, like it, yesterday would be the same as today. But I don't think I'd have it any other way, really.
you'd get too bored, Dave. You'd
Yeah,
get too.
yeah.
Back into sort of the last couple of years, I did a little bit of ultra running, which was really fun, and we're not going to talk about that today. But going from the cohort courses, and we talk about that kind of obligation that I realized, I decided to start a brand called the Shoestring Marketer. And I started writing a book, Dave,
Yeah,
called
cool.
Marketing on a Shoestring. And that's turned into a workshop. And so I've done, I think, 6 or 7 free workshops in person around the country, which is just kind of like a 1 hour session to get people through a couple of points that we're going to cover off today, but really to teach people what they're doing wrong or what they're not doing, and to help people, small business owners in particular, stop banging their head against the wall with their marketing, right? And to make informed decisions around when working with other people within their marketing, knowing when to work with other people, knowing how to work with other people. You don't need to be, as a business owner, you don't need to be a marketer, but you need to be a good marketing customer. No one taught us that stuff, right? This slide that we've got here, kind of one thing led to another. So I'm doing these little mini presentations, and I'm trying to really go, I could probably do better. I'm a half decent public speaker, but I could probably be a lot better. So I started studying it, and I started going to webinars and workshops of professional public speakers and sort of up my game a little bit. And that kind of ballooned into, I think I had a goal to do something like 12 public speaking presentations last year. I think I ended up doing about 20, 25. It was
Wow.
crazy. It
12 is
was
a
nuts.
lot. 20 is
Yeah, yeah.
a huge
It was
amount.
nuts. It was
Yeah.
nuts. Because as I would be at one, I'd meet people that another opportunity would pop up, and it would just kind of flow. And I realized, like, might come off as a little bit cocky here, but I've known for a little while that I have some pretty good knowledge to share. But the internal kind of, 8-year-old young Māori boy who got like brought up in the mean streets of the North Shore in Auckland didn't believe that I was good enough to stand on stage and share it. So the practice, putting in those little repetitions, um, actually not only gave me the confidence, but the message got across better. And as the message got across better, and then more and more people would start approaching me to come and share the same message. So And it's one of the things I want to share with people here is I think public speaking a superpower, and I've got a slide about it, right? Because I still feel like I'm kind of maybe a little bit above average, you know.
You're still on a journey, but that's a never been satisfied thing, right?
Totally, totally. And one thing that's really happened in the last couple of years is as I've gotten older, I've leaned into kind of my creative escapades. I'm doing a bit of writing. I've been writing a book, but I've also been writing some creative stuff. And I started playing around with teaching myself how to carve, which has been a fabulously wonderful process to unplug myself from work and hyper focus on a piece of wood for an evening with a sharp pointy thing and turn it into something that doesn't look like shit. Like
Nice.
that's been my goal there. And that's been really fun, man.
And how did you have you had training? How did you get into it, or did you just start reading and figuring it out yourself?
Oh, I learned a long time ago, probably through sports, definitely through sports. So I'll tell you a story. When I was 16, 15, when I was 14, I wanted to be cool, like a 14-year-old boy would want to be cool at school. The cool guy in my year was a basketball player. I was like, I want to be like that guy. So I started kind of like hanging around him like a bad smell. And I joined the basketball team and I was terrible. Like like horrifically terrible. Couldn't get a layup in, couldn't dribble the ball. Got like terribly heckled by my like the coach laughed at me a couple
Mm.
of. But I went home and I with our VHS machine at home recorded the NBA basketball games and watched them frame by frame on slow mo. And I found back then that I'm a visual observational learner, and that has been something that I've flexed for a very long time. So um, when we talk about carving, what I do is I watch videos of things
Hmm.
and then I emulate them later. To watch them straight away and go step by step, I just watch something, and then sometime in the future, my brain will get me back into that place, and I'll just be able to sort of practice it. And that's I've found the way that works for me for learning, and I'm probably a terrible student.
Yes, it
So
sounds to me like you've hit on a winning combination of immersion and osmosis, basically. You do both of those things, and there is something to be said about learning something when you don't need it immediately because your brain is just more open. When you've got a deadline on or something like that, you're
mm,
kind of like, I always find myself zoning in. Like I'm working on a big brand project at the moment, and I've started reading brand books just because I always feel like it's a good idea to go back to the basics. But I find myself I'm not engaging with it in the same way that I do when I don't have a brand project on.
I hear you. I found through teaching people, particularly small business owners, there'll be a bunch of small business owners watching this. You're all a really busy, erratic bunch. Entrepreneurs in the world tend to be the messiest of the brains sometimes too. And there's always a bigger priority than yourself. And I think when learning goes into the category of, well, this is just for me, your brain finds it hard to kind of hold on to that concentration space. And I learned this through a wonderful piece of work that I was again very fortunate in my career to work with the Canterbury Crusaders on a cohort learning program that they launched. And I pinched a few strategies from there in my
Oh,
B2B
great.
marketing course. And I realized when you get business owners together in a Zoom room, the focus happens, right? They
Right.
don't do any of the homework. They don't do any
Right.
of the prep work, but you get them in a room because they'll show up for the room. They'll show up because of social equity, not because this training's important for me. They'll show up because they don't want to be the person that doesn't show up. And and that was wonderful because I would say unanimously the people who loved the fact that they were working as part of kind of a cohort or a group along that same journey. You know, they're all different learning styles. So some people are learning from hearing from others do the same thing. Some people are learning just from doing it and getting some feedback from the rest of the cohort. And then some people are learning from the words that I put up on screen and talk to them through a Zoom session. Um, so yeah, I really love this concept of like learning, and I feel like I would love to. If there's something I would love to get really good at this year is helping people learn things better. You know.
Nice.
All right, so we want to talk to this slide that's been sitting here that people have been going, what is this question?
Well, I'm sure most people are desperate to see the next slide because they want to know what it is that we're neglecting.
Yeah. Well, I mean, And I want to sort of prefix this by saying, look, a lot of people will say bold statements like this, or a different reel every single day, or a different short on YouTube, a masterclass course coming up, and it'll lead with this very hooky statement. But, you know, this is not something that I have to sell. Statements we do, it's actually, the statement is made. A lot of statements that we see online in particular, the statements are made purely because they want to lead you towards something they want to sell. So it'll be like a big question like this, and then it'll be like, you need AI, or you need this, or you need that. And then giant coincidence, right? That person happens to be selling a course or a product that does that thing. So I am not selling the next slide, but I am absolutely passionate about this one part of marketing, okay? And so there's this concept called ICP, right? Customer persona, or ideal customer profile. I like the word persona because I feel like it's a more human thing around the person. I don't like the words prospects, and I don't like the words leads. I just like this persona, this who is the human that may grace us with a chance to buy our product or our service. And I'm obsessed about this stuff. Anytime I work with a client, anytime I work training with someone, the very first thing that I want them to do is really nail this down. Now, I have seen dozens and dozens and dozens of examples of ideal customer profiles, which is 2 paragraphs. And what I say to that is fucking enough.
Yeah, no.
It's not emotive enough for marketing. And so, you know, my strong belief is marketing is only about emotion, and sales is only about emotion. And all of the logic and all of the words happen after the emotional stuff has already happened. And so I'm going to give you an example there. When you're walking down the road and you look at a shop, so Dave, we'll use this as an example. What's something that you would like to buy, some sort of retail thing that you're like, oh, I'd love to buy that thing, but it's probably, you know, not something that I should really spend my money on right now, right?
Well, I don't own a car, so I'd really
Don't
like
own
to
a
have a car.
What sort of, give me a brand of car that you think would be kind of, you know,
Oh, I'm really into the electric cars at the moment. There's one
sure.
called a Polestar, which I think is really cool to see it
Okay.
around, you know.
Yeah. So let's say you are on the bus or in an Uber and you see this particular car up on a big billboard, right? Now, your brain is going to emotionally connect with that because there's a desire there already for that gap to be filled. And for some reason, the marketer who created that billboard is going to fulfill that emotional void with images and maybe 1 or 2 words, but probably through images. At that point, you're going to get inquisitive, and you might get your phone out and start looking up this beautiful creature that is metal and fast and quiet and whatever it is that is appealed to your emotional side. And you're going to start looking up the details. And that's when this whole transaction, and marketing is transactions, it's all happening between your eyes and your amygdala, the emotional part of your brain, right? And then what's happening, and goes to the reverse of what most people think happens in marketing, the logic side of the brain comes in and tries to either do one of 2 things, right? And this depends on the context of the buyer. Why should I buy this, or why shouldn't I buy this? Or more often, a bit of a battle for both. But you got to understand that the logic part of your brain is actually, the decision's already made that you want it because of the marketing and its effectiveness. The logic part of the brain is either trying to talk yourself into it, or talk yourself into being able to have a conversation with your wife to validate that you're going to do it, or to your bank manager, whatever it is you're buying, you know, but the logic comes second. And so many people I talk to are trying to logic their way into the minds of their customers. And I'm like, whoa. That's not going to work, right? So the way I pull apart this whole idea of a detailed customer persona is I go into the emotional stuff, right? Into fears, frustrations, aspirations, influence and context. And as a little lesson today, we'll go into how we do that. So I stole this framework from a number of different textbooks years ago, but I couldn't find anything that fit what I wanted. So I just pulled a whole lot of pieces together. And the really key parts are these 4 here around the circle, and then context. Communities is useful, and so we're going to go around with them the easiest ones first. So you pick your target customer, which is Dave, the young professional who wants a electric car, and you start with his frustrations, because frustrations are easy for us to empathize and imagine. Because all we need to do is we need to listen to conversations that we've had with this sort of person through our life, and they will have all sorts of frustrations. I remember working with the Crusaders. The people we were targeting was international rugby coaches who were coaching high school, right? And we were like, Welsh guy in his 50s, and we were like, what are his frustrations? And one of our frustrations was the text on his phone is too small.
Ah,
One of his frustrations is kids don't turn up for time. Or one of his frustrations are parents yelling at the sideline of the sports game. So we were just brainstorming a massive number of frustrations, right? Where are frustrations useful? Headline in your copy. Frustrations are where you can get immediate connection at an emotional level with your customer, because they're like, someone sees me. I also feel that frustration, right? Now, your product or your other copy can use your frustration to offset it, but all too often. And so one thing I say to people is go first person when you're doing a persona, write your frustrations as in their words. Do not put business corporate text over it. Do not grammar check it. Just write it like the person is thinking, right? And this sort of thing is where you can start using AI to really push it out, push the boat out and do it at scale, right? And so a tip here using AI is, I did this with this particular persona, which was to do with an early childhood centre. I said to Claude, go research to me through looking at valid feedback forums on Reddit and a number of other public places, the 6 most common complaints publicly made about ECE centres, and put them in the most common wording of the end customer. Do not paraphrase this, do not, right? I got this incredible piece of research, right? And the top 3 were like, okay, that's what we're putting on our signs. It's easy, right? We're just reversing that frustration immediately, and we're putting it on the signs. And so frustrations is just like this is like a cheat code for writing content. Fears is great too. So fears is Dave's wanting to buy this electric car. He doesn't want it to blow up
no.
because he heard that Tesla's blow up, right? Which may have not have been true, but it got out there. He doesn't want the vehicle to break down and have no service available. He also, if we really want to dig deep on Dave's fears, kind of doesn't want to look like a boomer in it,
No.
right? He wants, because, this is around whatever you're selling in your product. The fears of your customer are the fears that they might imagine. No matter how crazy the fears are, put them on your persona thing, because the crazy fears are what Dave imagines when he's like, maybe I should get that car. And then it's the crazy fears that come up first, right? Now, if the marketing, if the copy, the creative, the story, the ad, the video, or something in the background of an image offsets that fear without Dave knowing, then you're winning, right? But unless you write the fears down, you won't be able to offset the fear, right? So fears are incredible. We keep going around, motivations. Like one motivation that I constantly put in there is want everyone to like me, right? Or being seen as on top of things. So for a busy mum who's feeling really not on top of things, being seen on top of things is quite a common feeling that a busy mum will have as an inner thought, and you'll know what that motivation is because they'll be complaining what they can't do, right? So I wish I wasn't tired. That's a motivation. So pop it in there. And the last one is influencers. Like, who are the humans in the world that influence the decisions that they make, maybe around your product or maybe just in life? Now, if you fill up those 4 categories, and then you combine them, that where in their life's journey do they buy, where in Dave's life's journey does he buy this car, right? Then you can start imagining moments, right? And then your marketing can be placed around those moments. So a real no-brainer one is like, when are people wanting to get a mortgage? Well, when they get a house. When do they want to get a house? After they got married. So let's trigger people who have been married in the last year in our Facebook ads, right? But it's so often not used. Most people just go for demographics, then they hope that the copy will do its thing. And what I love in marketing is adding context and just really narrowing the field down to like, oh, look, now there's only 3,000 humans within the geographical area that we're working on. We're going to look to them because we're going to market so heavily to them. We're going to look like we're everywhere. It'll be the default electric car in Browns Bay, where Dave lives, right? At between 4 and 6, when his brain's tired and he wishes he had that car and he's susceptible to our killer marketing. Like, and Dave, honestly, this is my favorite part of our game, right? Is imagining these things and then testing and seeing the results come through. It's kind of like a gambling addiction for me.
Oh, it's magnificent when it happens. Humans are not thinking machines that feel, they're feeling machines that think.
Oh, beautiful.
I've really held on to that for many years because it's so true. Even the most rational of people, often they are doing post-rationalization. So they actually made an emotional decision, but then later on made up the rational reason as to why they did it, you know. But even in the most, like I work in some pretty nerdy fields, and even in this very data-rich kind of fields, it still comes down to feelings, I'm sure of it.
Oh, 100%. 100%. I did a marketing campaign to sell backup software to IT managers around the world, right? And what we realized was fear was the biggest driver for this particular product category. And we reined in on a really simple angle of not on my watch,
Nice. Wow,
right?
that's great.
Right? We're not losing all of the data, not on my watch, right? And that built this, that worked to this, you know, our target persona was predominantly male. So the not on my watch is very kind of a male, like I'm strong, I'm in control of this domain, don't piss around with my domain because I'm going to protect it to the death, right? But the other part was, you know, it was this protective measure against the bad guys or the bad things. And so that was really successful angle. And it's the same thing. It's like you imagine, yeah, I love what you said. You imagine your customer firstly as an emotional creature, you know, secondly as someone who will then try and outthink the emotional things that you've pulled, right? And you still need to have the analytical side covered.
Yeah, and it also moves faster as well. There's the classic book, Thinking Fast and Slow. And in that, they talk about the two systems. And system one is much more seated in the limbic system. So it's fast, it moves really quickly. And the rational part of your brain is system two, which is slower, consumes more energy. So that's why sending an ad when someone's tired, their brain is switched off its rational
Yes.
capability to some degree and is mostly in state of decision fatigue.
This raises, and I don't have a slide for this, raises a really good point that I want to ask you about because it's something that I believe in. So we're talking about top of funnel stuff here, the side, right? And bottom of the funnel too. So sales, right? So when someone is moving forward in sales, often the emotional side has to be completely tapped, but the rational side has already been dealt with too. The middle of the funnel is where all the rational stuff has to be filled in, right? So you won't capture people with logic at the top of the funnel. It's too boring, right? You won't capture them with statistics of how good the battery power is of this particular car, right? You'll capture them with you won't look like a boomer because it's so sleek and elegant. But then when their brain moves from those different parts, you're in the middle of the funnel, right? And that's when you're saying you're remarketing, where you're sort of feeding Dave through the remarketing campaign the statistics and the validators and the reasons why it's just a no-brainer to buy this car right now, because not only is it on special, but it's also 24 months interest-free. And because we happen to be really smart with our personas, this particular four-wheel drive version that Dave got, we've also got it comes with a rooftop camper,
Yep.
right? So like you start bringing in all these other reasons to buy. They're all logic reasons. But that logic doesn't live at the top of the funnel, in the middle, right? And I find with small business owners, they read Alex Hormozy book and they think they know about funnels, but they know about offers,
Yeah, yeah,
right?
totally.
And the funnel thing, I think, is just something that I just wish everyone would go out and learn, you know, about email nurturing, and not about like the email nurturing you see in your inbox, like learning about, you know, studying your customer and taking them on the journey and asking yourself, what are the objections that their brain is making in making this decision? And, you know, realizing that it can often take 6 to 60 pieces of content to arrive in someone and repetition for someone to buy something, which is exactly why McDonald's still heavily invest in bus stop signs.
Yeah.
So you'll see all of the digital stuff from McDonald's everywhere, and you'll see all of the banners, but you go past the bus stop on the way to McDonald's and it's just the burger, right? Because they know they need to remind you towards the store when you're making the decision to buy dinner, or, when you're driving home and you're like, I feel like a treat. And I think so many conversations I have with small business people, it's like, I know I just really need a viral reel, or I need to do a really cool ad and everything will be fine after you do the really cool ad. I'm like, mate, people don't buy from ads, they buy
No.
from relationships. And relationships require, generosity, they require compassion, they require empathy, they require relatability, they require so many things which go into this metaphor that people call a funnel. Wonderful business coach who said to me, Stu, I need you to make me a funnel.
Right.
Like,
I'll just build it. Yeah.
I was like,
Yeah.
what if I did that? What would that look like? And he said, I don't know.
Yeah, no, well, look, it is because it's a slightly abstract concept. It is sometimes a bit of a head scratcher, even after all these years. I'm still like, oh, hang on, And one of the things I find interesting is that I have often, if I'm engaging with someone for the first time and you're presenting the marketing plan for the first time, people have these really strong reactions to particular tactics, which actually I've always been like, don't have contempt before investigation, right? One of them is newsletters. People hate newsletters for some reason. There's a visceral reaction to doing it. But I'm like, you're just shooting off one of the most powerful, out of hand, one of the best ways to create a medium to long-term relationship with your clients is to turn up metronomically in their inbox with some value,
Yeah. Can I back that up with data from the company I worked in with the States?
Oh,
Because I
bring
think
it on.
worthwhile, right? So we were quite sneaky because we did email outreach and all sorts of ways to get people into our inbox, but we were ultimately emailing 40,000 people a week
Wow, that is
around the world,
something.
right?
Yeah.
Of the 40,000 people a week, we had a metric that if someone had opened, either clicked on 2 links, attended 1 webinar, downloaded 1 lead magnet, or had opened emails 9 times, and there was just like made up number, that we would move them to the middle of the funnel.
Yep. Yep.
And everything that we sent them before that was give content, not one sales pitch. We didn't even introduce our product or our brand. It was all, hey, here's something that we think you might like. Here's a webinar that you might like to go to. Here's a white paper that one of our partners has done. We just gave 40,000 people every week, right? And when we got them into the kind of engaged space, right, then we would start carefully and meticulously feeding them more content about us. And then if they didn't hook from that, we put them into the newsletter.
Back
right?
into the newsletter.
Now, so number one, $2 million of sales in 18 months. Not bad. Enterprise. So long sales cycle too. And we didn't have a sales team. We had 2 guys selling. So there was no cold calling. There was no other stuff like this. This was the funnel. By the end of the 18 months, when I moved on, we had about 9,000 what we'd call middle of funnel warm prospects who knew our brand, understood what we did. We knew they had opened dozens and dozens of emails, and we were sending them the newsletter. To Dave's newsletter point, we had a 45% open rate on our newsletter. Yeah, because we were obsessive about the newsletter being useful. And so when people say to me, oh, newsletters are crap, I'm like, well, door-to-door salespeople are crap too.
Yeah.
If they just come and start throwing sales pitches at you. But if it's something really, really genuinely useful that arrives at your doorstep and it's presented in a safe and enthusiastic but appropriate way for you because you're targeted well, right? You're probably going to give them 5 minutes to talk.
Yeah.
And so that just takes it just takes like imagination and a lot of testing to get there. And I find the biggest problem I see with newsletters, I hate the word, right, is people don't put enough effort into it from an imagination and testing perspective, right? All of their effort goes into top of funnel,
Yes.
which is a giant tragedy.
Yes.
There's this all day creating the reel that will get people into a space where they might actually look at the newsletter, and the newsletter is, here's our specials of the month.
It's almost worse to build anticipation and then disappoint, right? That is almost worse than not doing it in the first place.
Oh yeah, I'll actually say that I'm so embarrassed of the number of times that I've just stopped sending monthly newsletters. It is a chore. It's a chore, but it's such a valuable one if you're really serious about growth, particularly in B2B. But I think in all areas, it's a killer. Shall I knock through the next slide?
Yeah, let's
Yeah.
do that.
So personal brand is something that I've been doing a lot of work on for Stu, but also for my clients. Why do I think personal branding is really important? Because of AI. This is like 100%. I think AI is creating a really, really difficult digital world to stand out in. And it's affecting two things. It's affecting brands and your company's ability to get attention and sell things. But it's never been more unsafe to be an employee.
Yeah, of course. This is a bit meta. I wasn't
Right?
expecting this. So you're
Well,
actually
it has
talking
to.
about being actually as an employee, you're at serious
100%.
risk of the
Right?
AI taking you. You know.
So with the marketing club that we go to events again and again and again. All of these marketers, so we'll call it white collar work. And I meet people at every single event. There are one of two situations. I've been made redundant and I can't find another role. Or I'm worried that I'm going to be the next redundant because everyone is talking about AI, right? And I don't think there's one person who I've genuinely spoken to, you included, who hasn't got some sort of fear that something that we're used to dominating in is going to be taken away from us by this magical tool, or not necessarily taken away, but someone who has influence on our world believes that it will,
Yes.
right?
Yeah. Well, even some of the things like age, right? So my last job as an employee, I was CMO, and then you come out of that job and suddenly you go, oh, you can't go down a peg because people are like, well, you're just too senior that if I had that, and there aren't loads of other CMO roles out there just waiting to be filled, And one of the reasons that I fired Europa up again 2 years ago, because I realized that, I'm better to chart my own destiny than try and like survive in the eddies and flows of this crazy world that we're in now.
100%, mate. It's a strong belief that I hold that yesterday is the best time to start working on your personal brand, your situation
Yeah,
is.
100%.
Right. And so, but I also laugh because there's a lot of people punting like personal branding, and what they're really doing is how to make content. And
Yep.
so I wanted to say a few different things. So what are some three really effective ways that I found? And I want people to look at the graph first. So I took kind of 2 months off social media in November last year. This is my LinkedIn.
Yep.
And then I jumped back into it kind of in February. And so this graph is proof that you can go back from zero to a lot of content performance, right? And I'm relatively regular with my content, but I myself as quite lazy compared to some people. I'm definitely on the Gary V, do everything in your stories, all things a day type of thing.
Yeah.
And I think I've posted maybe 4 videos this year, right?
But also LinkedIn tanks it. They went on this whole thing. Every video that I came across was LinkedIn talking about getting into video. But then for some reason, like I post a lot of videos because of this show and stuff like that. I post it knowing it's going to tank because I haven't had a single video go well.
Yeah, totally. So let me talk about my 3 must-do things. So number 1, and this goes against what a lot of LinkedIn coaches will say, but I'll argue with Lynette Johnson, who's my dear friend, about this one, but she's coming around to my way of thinking. So every single day I go into LinkedIn, I go to the connections tab either on screen or I go into my phone and I pick 3 randoms and I hit the connect button.
Yeah, nice.
Right? That's it. I started doing this in 2014. That year I got 5,000 new connections. I'm at 28,000 today. One of the reasons why I still believe it works is because you're sending a very, very regular and strong signal to LinkedIn that you are a connector. And the LinkedIn network isn't like Facebook. Facebook and Instagram and TikTok are for creators. So to do well in those networks, you have to create a lot. Creations have to be great. LinkedIn is a connection network. It's a different algorithm. So what happens when you start connecting to people, and this is something that so many people they know, but they don't realize, like hiding in plain sight. If I connect to you today, Dave, what can you guarantee will show up in my feed over the next 2 days?
it'll be my content for sure. So
It'll
that'll be
be
probably the last thing that I posted. And
it'll be the last two posts. I've
yeah,
analyzed this, right? The
yeah,
last post will absolutely 100% show up on the feed of the person who is your most recent connection. So if you have got 5 new connections a day, then you're guaranteeing your last post, right? 5 to 10 new impressions just by doing the connect thing, right? Even if the post is 2 months old. That's one aspect. The other aspect is because you are sending the strong signal that you are a connector on LinkedIn, when you scroll in that connections and it says, here are people that you should be connecting to, it's going to find people in your industry, in your area, who are active connecting, because it will never recommend someone who never connects with anyone, right? So it's just such a simple hack.
oh, it's
So that's
great.
number one. Number two, get out from behind your desk. And, for me, the content that I've posted is I get a lot of really good feedback about most of it is out in the wild. Most of it is not me coming up with something really clever or creative to say. It's like I'm just living a pretty decently cool life, right?
Yes.
And when I reshare the parts of my life that I find fun and exciting, or even just humorous, or I'm with other humans, guess what? The other social networking people in the room also seem to engage with it. And that's all that matters, because the algorithm only responds to other people's reactions to your stuff, right?
It's interesting. I find that like I'm a big work nerd. I love posting stuff about work, and I love
Oh,
posting
cool.
like but
And you're good at it.
yeah, thank you, very kind. But the stuff that I really like, it always tanks. It's never good. I mean, I always put stuff in that's like I've spent ages writing about, brand
Oh,
consideration or something like that, and it's got a beautiful chart on it, and it gets like 5 likes or something like that. Whereas, having a coffee with Stu in Browns Bay, oh, pops off.
no.
Can't get enough of that stuff.
Can we come up with a name for that? I feel like we can call it the Titanic post or something. With all intentions, we like this is a bulletproof piece of thing, and it just
Yeah, well, I post it knowing it's not going to go there, but I do think is that you've got to mix it up, some authoritative content that's useful for people. And it's also to your point, because I'm a, like, I don't know what you call it, prolific connector, let's
hmm
call it that.
yeah.
They're going to look at the first post that you did, and it's not going to hurt from time to time if you've got a post that's actually talking about something relatively technical,
Oh, 100%. Like, what has Dave got to back this up, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Who is
yeah.
this guy? And I think that's a really important thing, that people are going to click on your profile. You're on LinkedIn and you're doing a post. Sure, you want them to see the post, but then you want them to look at your profile. Then you want them to follow or connect to you. And they're only going to do that if your profile itself serves this wonderful word that I love to use, serves them from a usefulness perspective, right? Is this person useful to me because they're entertaining? And this might be on TikTok. Are they entertaining? Bloody useful.
Yeah.
For me, it's like, oh, look, it's someone with a really cool camper van video and I'm building a camper van. Then I look at their profile and there's all of these hacks on how to build camper van. That's really useful. Follow, right? And our LinkedIn profiles have to be like that. They have to be a website that sings your usefulness and probably your approachability. I think that's an untapped aspect too, right?
I
Well,
admire people who aren't always talking about how bloody great everything is,
real talk.
real talk. I mean, within
Yeah.
reason, but, I think anyone who's kind of talking about how everything's going perfectly well is lying, and it doesn't talk to that human, and you talk about approachability. That's the thing that I always lean in when someone does that, where vulnerability is perhaps too strong a word, but it's about kind of revealing the screws and the rivets behind everything that's been built, basically.
Yep. A term that I've been using a lot lately is being unapologetically human,
Yeah, that's a
right?
better way of putting it.
And, when you are unapologetically human, the other humans in the room can't help but relate to you. And then we go back to that emotional part, right? We criteria selection decisions predominantly through emotional aspects, not rational aspects. We use the rational aspects later to validate the emotional. It just feels better to work with Dave, better to work with you. You're going, oh, look. And then you look at things with the bias that you're looking for reasons to go with Dave,
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's
right?
right. You're retrospectively coming up with a rationale as to
Yeah.
why, yeah.
So yeah, I love the human side of things. Last point on personal branding boost is public speaking and community involvement. For me, I mean, I've always been involved in charities. I've always been involved in things. I ramped it up a lot over the last couple of years. I dove in headlong to the marketing club, which I just love the community. And, how does that help with my personal brand? Well, I have a community who love me back. That's one aspect. But also being involved in a community like that gives me a much more sustainable menu of things to go get out from behind my desk and deal with number two, right? Because I got to go to all of these events. And so it just kind of self-fulfilling that I'm giving to this community. This community is giving me back because I get to go to all these events, take photos, or be in photo, or speak on a podium, and that turns into content.
Yeah. And it's also really good for the soul, because there's that whole thing about, you can go fast alone and far together,
100%. And so this is last year.
Yeah.
Going out and doing things, right? So I just scroll through my content and screen capped and popped them into this slide. So much of my content is just me at a place, looking at the camera and smiling, folks.
Yes.
You have to look at the camera, you have to smile, get over yourself, fucking do it, honestly. Yeah. Because the scientists in the room will understand that eyeballs and smiles attract attention in order for people to gain the right to read your post, right? And you have to gain the right for someone to read your post. And so we all have eyeballs, we all have smiles. The simplest way to do this is to smile and eyeballs, right? It's that simple. Even me being a goofball in this, Zoom meeting, taking a screenshot and posting it. That post got a ton of impression because I got all of them to smile. It's a group of people smiling, below that post is Dave's opus on remarketing effectiveness for brands.
Totally.
And it's so much more worthwhile than Stu's post, but Stu's post wins the right. Right?
100%. Yeah.
And that top of the funnel game, it's winning the right and then once you've got the right, you can go deep.
No, you're right. And I think the super rational argument, it just doesn't hold much water. And it's almost like a manifestation of your theory, or confirmation, right? Is that, the emotional posts win and the super rational don't,
Yeah. I don't know if you just brought up the word or whether I just misheard it, but the word superficial, I think, is a really powerful thing to on, man. Because when I try and preach this stuff to my clients, to my trainees, or if I'm sharing a post, invariably there'll be a bloke, woman too, who says, "Oh, I don't want to post that superficial stuff. It's just like I'm above it, right?
Yeah.
It's below." And I'm like, "Screw you, man. Going through this. This is me in the top left-hand side doing a speaker prep for a really, really important webinar that we were doing. This is me coming out from a event. This is me on a panel. This is me doing one of the hardest things of my life. This is me working remote. Like, none of it's superficial. Everyone be smiling at it, right? And I think we can all do this. But the problem that we have is we've been taught, right? Like this Gen Xers, we've been taught incorrectly that you have to somehow dance on TikTok or be some sort of beautiful influencer to get top of funnel attention. And it's just bullshit.
No. It's not true. And anyway, it's all about the people that matter most to you, right? So you're not the people that are watching the videos of the dancing, that is actually a different audience. Going back to your original point, right? That is not who your audience is.
No. And they've picked up their phone to escape their lives for some entertainment, right? That's fascinating. Okay. I'm looking at the clock, man, so I'm just going to go into the last slide. Is that all right?
Yeah, let's go.
So three skills that everyone needs to work on in 2026. When I say everyone, I mean everyone. And spoiler alert, AI is not on it. I think AI is a skill that we should have all started learning, and I think it's part of everything. I look at it as a part of every skill we learn. I think it's part of our learning. I think it's part of our ideation. I think it's part of our world. I kind of look at it like the internet. And when the internet came out, it wasn't like you need to learn the internet. It was like you need to use the internet, but I believe AI is going to get so good that we don't need to be great prompters anymore. Like I feel like we should be well aware of utilizing it as a tool to optimize the things that we can be great at, right?
It's already there, to be honest. I use Whisperflow a lot, and I just vomit stuff at the thing, and I might need to polish, some follow-up stuff, but good as gold, really, for most of the tasks that I'm doing,
Totally. But I want to talk to the skills, though. Public speaking. Because there'll be people who are watching this and going, "Well, actually, Stu, I'm a middle manager in a freight logistics company. Why the hell would I need to learn to public speak?" And I'm like, mate, if you don't want AI to steal your job, you need to be the person who they put in front of people, right?
Yeah.
If you're they being the people above you, then the they will choose the other person replaced by AI. So public speaking ability, I believe, is something that they will put you on camera, that they will put you in front of the seminars or in front of your teams. And so that's number one reason why I think it's vitally important. Number two reason I think it's vitally important, Dave, is because AI is really just ruining our experience on digital platforms.
Yeah.
That we are already hungry for more authentic human. In order to prove that you're an authentic human, you have to post videos because they're more difficult to fake. But also, I think, and this is what I'm doing this year, is the videos that I post won't be me doing head and shoulders, talking all thought leadery in front of the camera. They'll be me being a thought leader at a venue in front of an audience that is impossible to fake because it's a valid event that I spoke at.
Lovely.
And I think that's the trajectory that people should be looking to get on if you truly want to secure your future. As a thought leader, as an expert in something, you could get AI to write a book, but that's not valid anymore, right? But you can't get AI to stand up on stage
Not yet.
and speak with conviction to a topic.
Well, there's also quite a meta point here, actually, Stu.
Nothing's impossible. Come on, go for it.
Getting found on AI search is actually a lot about authority. And one of the ways that it finds you is by finding you as an authority from different sources. So not just your website, but your website, your LinkedIn, other people's LinkedIn, a conference website where you're on, that all starts building up a thing in the search engine's minds, which is quite different to how Google used to work, or does work, So even if you're like a hard AI person who's all about Claude Code all the time or whatever, public speaking is incredibly powerful and important for that reason.
I'd take that meta thought a step further and go, that concept spans to every non-paid, non-third-party produced platform or digital channel, TV, not Netflix, right, not radio, but the humans in your world will seek to validate the sources that they have through more mechanisms and more means than they ever have because there's so much fakery.
Yeah.
And guess what? They're going to use AI to do it.
Yeah, that's right.
They're going to go, Claude, this is Stu Lees guy. Can you actually validate that he's real? Can you give me a list and summary of all the things? It'll be like, Stu spoke at all of these places and did all of these things. And they're like, great, real deal.
Yeah, he's a real person. Yeah,
but
exactly.
If you only show up with a digital avatar, you think you're being cute because you got filled into it by some shitty ad, the validation's going to fail. There's a short game in this, and I get it. There's a lot of people playing a really, really slick short game. I've always been looking forward at the long game going, and this is a fun one, right? Because we're all like in the tsunami flapping around, right? But I'm looking over the horizon going, yep. This particular tsunami is damaging trust so much. So how do what are going to be the completely valid ways of retaining trust forever? And it goes back to one of my points, which is public speaking. Number 2 point, personal branding, right? Not just relying on a human brand, on a business brand, no job is safe and there's no such thing as stable anymore. So your personal brand is an asset that you can really increase for free. You can increase the value of that asset.
Your insurance policy
very
is
right?
what it is.
And then that community and event side of things, you could play the hard game of going out on social media and proving your worth, right? Or you could have a community project it for you.
Yeah.
And to me, a local community of your peers projecting, just like I've seen you do the B2B meetup.
Yeah.
Right? Genius. Right, because you're meeting other B2B people, you're taking photos with other B2B people. It says Dave's all about B2B.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. It makes complete sense. And that's what this point's all about is, those communities will help you not only validate and kind of be part of your insurance policy, but I also think that they just kind of make it easier.
Well, it's easier to exist. It's we've got Marketers Day coming up at the time of recording, and I always find that you feel a little bit less alone, a little bit less it is sometimes a struggle for me to get off the couch and go, well, not off the couch, actually from behind
Yeah.
my computer, right?
Yep.
More pressing and more urgent stuff. But
Yep.
you go there and just feel a little bit less alone and more connected. And, you know, you can go with something that's been bothering you and run it to Stu and just go, hey, I've been, I've got this thing. And you go, I had that thing, that's how it
Totally.
works.
Totally. And I think from like the networking, or whatever you want to call it, but the being in communities and being in rooms, real rooms with real humans, for me, it really proves it disproves a lot of the digital media stuff that we've been sucked into from time to time. Because when I meet people in real life, I stop wanting to need to validate their specific skills. I just think this is a good guy. I trust him as a human. He says he can do X. I'm going to tell my friend, hey, I haven't worked with this guy, but he's a good dude. You're looking for a graphic designer? He's a good dude. Have a chat to him. These are the top 2 people on my list, right? And invariably, I've met with them.
Yeah,
Right?
100%.
If you're on digital channels only, then you're missing out on that referenceability on those referrals.
If I think about the last 2 gigs that I got, or
Mm-hmm.
pieces of business I got, one of them came from a straight recommendation. Came out of nowhere, wasn't looking for it. It's beautiful. Email in straight away. They had asked this person to do it. They were committed. They said, I can't, but I know someone who can do it also. And that was it. It's been, what a great way to start a relationship. And then the second one came from my newsletter, you know, and that happened. That wasn't the first time I met that person. This is exactly what you're talking about with a funnel, right? I pitched to them a year and a half ago, and they have been reading my newsletter ever since. And then they were just like, I knew when the time came that I would get in touch with you because I really enjoy your newsletter.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Beautiful. I think you're like me. I've had a decent number of meetings with people. First time meeting,
Yep.
someone on the other side of the world. Hey, Stu, I'm really glad we finally got around to work together. I
I
feel
love
like I
that.
already know you. And I'm like, honestly, I'm like, I don't know who the hell this person is. Like,
No.
because they haven't been posting, but they've been watching,
Yep. And they probably
right?
haven't been necessarily engaging with your post either. This is the thing.
Yeah, or your email.
Yeah, they're just drifting through the inbox, but they note the
Yeah.
subject line and they maybe occasionally open it and just go, oh, that was interesting, that sort of thing.
I'm going to give you one more prop before we close this. For your concept of newsletters, because I'm just a really big fan of email marketing, right? There's something about email marketing going through every single month that proves something about people that everyone universally wants to say to people, hey, I do good service,
Yes.
right? Our business, great service. Well, what does great service mean? Generally, it means showing up, doing what you said you were going to do consistently. Sending email marketing every month is doing that to people who aren't yet customers. You're proving that you are a solid business, you're still around, you're consistent, right? And that you know what you're talking about. But that consistency thing sings, this is a company that will provide good service because, and it's, again, subconscious, right? So,
Well, it comes around quick. I've got a fortnightly one, and I can tell you that it just seems to be you're like, I just wrote one. And the other thing that happens as a creator of that thing is I'm always like, I got nothing. I really don't. I've got nothing. And then you start, the whole thing is the discipline of writing is actually about creating ideas as you write. And I've got to write our one this weekend, and because I've left it till deadline day basically. And yet at the same time, I know once I start, I'll freaking love it.
awesome, mate. Yeah, look, I admire you because I come and go with mine.
We've all got those ones there's always those disciplines that you're consistent with and the ones that you're not. Doesn't sound to me like
Yeah.
yours is quality over quantity by the sounds of things.
It's also just, I have a beautifully erratic life sometimes, and sometimes my life goes into direction. I stay in those places and other things get neglected. So, that's me being unashamedly human.
Yeah, great. Well, Stu, it's been amazing to have you on Slideshow. We did have your QR code just up just before, but I will put all the stuff in the show notes.
Thank you.
And it's been a real honor to have you on Slideshow, and hopefully you'll come back at some point.
Oh, man.
Cool.
All right, man. Thank you so much. It's been great to chat with you.